Om Namo Bhagavate Sri Ramanaya. Welcome to the offering by the North Carolina Ramana Satsang group. We start our program with the song ILANKUYILE, composed by Sri SADHU, sung by Srimati Mangalam Kalyanam.
இளங்குயிலே அண்ணலிடம் எனக்காக நீ சென்று விளங்குமுனதருள் தாக வேட்கையினால் வெம்புகின்றான் களங்கமில்லா ஆருள் பிழம்பே கண்ணே ஸ்ரீ ரமணேஷா வளம் கனிந்த மலை மருந்தே வாவென்று கூவாயோ அறியாதிருந்தவளு கன்றே உணர்த்தியருள் குறியால் உனை கொடுத்தாய் அன்று முதல் கோவென்றே வெறியால் அழுதழுது விம்முகின்றாள் ரமணேஷா வரியார்க்கே ஈவாயே வாவென்று கூவாயோ திருச்சுழியில் செல்வரடி தீண்டாமல் தேருநாய் போல் இருக்க மனம் சக்கியாமல் ஏதேதோ புலம்புகின்றாள் உருக்கிய செம்பொன் போன்ற ஒளிமலையே ரமணேஷா சுருக்கெனவே வாவென்று சொல்லெடுத்து கூவாயோ கண்டவெல்லாம் நகைக்க கண் கலங்கி அழுகின்றாள் கொண்டவர் கைவிடில்லந்த கோதை மனம் கோதிக்காதோ அழண்டமெல்லாம் அளிக்கும் அருணாச்சலனி ரமணேஷா பண்டெழுந்த கடலமுதே பாரென்று பகராயோ மையாடு கண்ணில் அண்ணா மலையாட உள்உருகி மெய்யாடி தளர்கின்றாள் விண்காலம் கழியாமுன் ஐயாம் அவட்குயிரே அருளாளா ரமணேஷா செய்யாயோ அருள் என்றே சென்றுடனே கூவாயோ கருத்தழிய ஊனை எண்ணி காய்கின்ற அவளாக்கை மருத்துவர் வந்திவள் நோய்கோர் மருந்திலை என மீண்டான் திருத்தனின தாருள் மருந்தே தேவையின்று ரமணேஷா வருத்தம் என்ன என்னுடனே வாவென்று கூவாயோ. வருத்தம் என்ன என்னுடனே வாவென்று கூவாயோ. இளம் குயிலே அண்ணலிடம் எனக்காக நீ சென்று விளங்குமுனதருள் தாக வேட்கையினால் வெம்புகின்றார்.
Next, we have a reading by Vijay Iyer from Day by Day with Bhagavan.
April 12th, 1946, Day by Day with Bhagavan. Question 2. I start with great keenness towards some ideal, but gradually I get slack. What should I do to prevent it, and what is the reason for this happening? Bhagavan. Just as there must have been a reason for your keenness at one time, there must be a reason for getting slack also later on. Question 3. There are a number of spiritual teachers teaching various paths. Whom should one take for one's guru? Bhagavan. Choose that one where you find you get shanti or peace. Question 4. What is the best way of dealing with desires with a view of getting rid of them, satisfying them or suppressing them? Bhagavan. If a desire can be got rid by satisfying it, there will be no harm in satisfying such a desire. But desires generally are not eradicated by satisfaction. Trying to root them out that way is like pouring spirits to quench fire. At the same time, the proper remedy is not forcible suppression, since such repression is bound to react sooner or later in forceful surging up with undesirable consequences. The proper way to get rid of a desire is to find out who gets the desire, who is its source. When this is found, the desire is rooted out and it will never again emerge or grow. Small desires, such as the desire to eat, drink, and sleep, and attend to calls of nature, though these may also be classed among desires, you can safely satisfy. They will not implant vasanas in your mind, necessitating further birth. Those activities are just necessary to carry on life and are not likely to develop or leave behind vasanas or tendencies. As a general rule, therefore, there is no harm in satisfying a desire where the satisfaction will not lead to further desires by creating vasanas in the mind.
Next, Ranjini Ramanan will be singing 5 verses from Sri Muruganar's composition Vinay Nikam or Destruction of Karma. Each verse will be followed by its meaning in English, read by Rasika Ramanan. The English translation is by Professor K. Swaminathan. Kshetrarthamakeyum innashayame பெற்றார் வாழ்சோனை பெருமான் புகழ் பேச கற்றார் தமை காக்கும் கடவுள் கழல்களே பற்றா நின்றாரை பற்றாவினை தாமே.
Past karma cannot cling to those who cling to the feet of this great God, for he shields from harm all those who sing praises of the Lord who dwells in Shone, where dwell good souls who cannot dream of harming even foes.
பாராதியவற்றை பாராபார்பார்கட்கு ஆறாமுதாகி அண்ணாமலை மேய சீரார் சுயம் ஜோதி செம்மல் பாதமே சேரா நின்றாரை சேராவினை தாமே.
Past karma cannot cling to those who cling to the feet of this great God, whose self-effulgent brightness dwells in Annamalaya as the immortal bliss of true seekers who see not the seeming universe.
பெண்ணானலியாம் பொய் வேதனோக்காதே உன்னாடுணர்வோரே ஒரும் பெருமைசால் அண்ணாமலை மேய அண்ணல் பாதமே நன்னா நின்றாரை நன்னாவினை தாமே.
Past karma cannot cling to those who cling to the feet of the great God dwelling on Annamalai, whose glory they only know who, disregarding false distinctions like male, female, and neuter, look for the truth within.
மாயாதுழல் பேயா மனத்தை புறஷற்றும் பாயாதர ஷேற்றுட் பார்ப்பார் நெஞ்சத்துள் ஓயாதொளிர்கின்ற உணர்வோன் பாதமே தோயா நின்றாரை தோயா வினை தாமே.
Past karma cannot cling to those who cling to the feet of him who is the awareness shining in the heart that stays within, controlling firmly the never restless mind from darting outward.
அனுவாமான்மாவை விபுவாய்ச் செய்வேத்து தனிகாச்சலத்தேயுன் தமியேனுள்ளத்தும் நனுகாக்குடி கொண்ட நல்லோன் பாதமே அணுகா நின்றாரை அணுகாவினை தாமே. திருச்சிற்றம்பலம்.
Past karma cannot cling to those who cling to the feet of the good one who expands the Atman, atom small, into the vast, wide universe and dwells forever on Tanyige Hill and in this heart of mine.
Next, we have a reading by Shekhar Kalyanam from Day by Day with Bhagavan.
June 28, 1946, Day by Day with Bhagavan. Khanna, is there destiny? And if what is destined to happen will happen, is there any use in prayer or effort, or should we just remain idle? Bhagavan, there are only two ways to conquer destiny or be independent of it. One is to inquire for whom is this destiny and discover that only the ego is bound by destiny and not the self, and that the ego is non-existent. The other way is to kill the ego by completely surrendering to the Lord, by realizing one's helplessness and saying all the time, not I, but thou, O Lord, and giving up all sense of I and mine and leaving it to the Lord to do what he likes with you. Surrender can never be regarded as complete so long as the devotee wants this or that from the Lord. True surrender is love of God for the sake of love and nothing else, not even for the sake of salvation. In other words, complete effacement of the ego is necessary to conquer destiny, whether you achieve this effacement through self-inquiry or through bhakti marga. Khanna, are our prayers granted? Bhagavan, yes, they are granted. No thought will go in vain. Every thought will produce its effect sometime or other. Thought force will never go in vain.
Srimati Saroja Ramanan will now sing Namaskaram SEIVOM, composed by the late Sri V.R.LAKSHMINARAYANAN.
Namaskaram SEIVOM, Namaskaram SEIVOM, Arunagiri Noki, Namaskaram SEIVOM, Arunagiri Noki, தினமும் தவறாமல் ஆயிரம் ஆயிரம் நமஸ்காரம் செய்வோம். அருணகிரி நோக்கி தினமும் தவறாமல் ஆயிரம் ஆயிரம் நமஸ்காரம் செய்வோம். குமர குரு பரன் மாநிலம் உய்வித்தார். குமர குரு பரன் மாநிலம் உய்வித்தார். ரமண ஸ்வரூபியாய் அமர்ந்த திசை நோக்கி குமர குரு பரன் மாநிலம் உய்வித்தார். ரமண ஸ்வரூபியாய் அமர்ந்த திசை நோக்கி நமஸ்காரம் செய்வோம். அருணகிரி நோக்கி தினமும் தவறாமல் ஆயிரம் ஆயிரம் நமஸ்காரம் செய்வோம். காமனை எரித்தவன் யமனையும் வென்றவன். கமனிய ரூபன் மௌன உருவினன். காமனை எரித்தவன் யமனையும் வென்றவன். கமனிய ரூபன் மௌன உருவினன். யமனா நின்னருள் பெற்றால் யமபயம் நமக்கெது. ரமணா நின் அருள் பெற்றால் ரமபயம் நமக்கெது. அதனால் அனுதினமும் ரமணா ரமணா என்று ரமணா நின்னருள் பெற்றால் யமபயம் நமக்கெது. அதனால் அனுதினமும் ரமணா ரமணா என்று நமஸ்காரம் செய்வோம். அருணகிரி நோக்கி தினமும் தவறாமல் ஆயிரம் ஆயிரம் நமஸ்காரம் செய்வோம். நமஸ்காரம் செய்வோம்.
Next, we have a reading by Shankar Nathan.
Day by Day with Bhagavan. 31st May 1946. Mr. Phillips, an Englishman who used to be a missionary and is now a teacher, and who has been about 20 years in Hyderabad, came this morning. He said, I lost my son in the war. What is the way for his salvation? Bhagavan was silent for a while and then replied, Your worry is due to thinking. Anxiety is a creation of the mind. Your real nature is peace. Peace has not got to be achieved. It is our nature. To find consolation, you may reflect, God gave, God has taken away, He knows best. But the true remedy is to inquire into your true nature. It is because you feel that your son does not exist that you feel grief. If you knew that he existed, you would not feel grief. That means that the source of the grief is mental and not an actual reality. There is a story given in some books how two boys went on a pilgrimage, and after some days news came back that one of them was dead. However, the wrong one was reported dead, and the result was that the mother who had lost her son went about as cheerful as ever, while the one who had still got her son was weeping and lamenting. So it is not any object or condition that causes grief, but only our thought about it. Your son came from the self and was absorbed back into the self. Before he was born, where was he apart from the self? He is our self in reality. In deep sleep, the thought of I, or child, or death does not occur to you, and you are the same person who existed in sleep. If you inquire in this way and find out your real nature, you will know your son's real nature also. He always exists. It is only you who think he is lost. You create a son in your mind and think that he is lost. But in the self, he always exists.
Sisters Kavya, who is 10 years old, and Meera, who is 6, will now be singing the bhajan Om Ramana.
Om Ramana, Om Ramana, Upanishadvandya, Om Ramana, Udara Leela, Om Ramana, Uttama Purusha, Om Ramana, Shri Ramarchita, Om Ramana, Vara Ramana, Vara Ramana, Varada Bhayakara, Vara Ramana, Vanchita Falada, Vara Ramana, Vachama Gochara, Vara Ramana, Shri Rama Chita Vara Ramana, Jaya Ramana, Jaya Ramana, Jaya Vara Prada, Jaya Ramana, Jagatodara, Jaya Ramana, Jivan Mukta, Jaya Ramana, Shri Rama Chita, Jaya Ramana, Shri Rama Chita, Jaya Ramana, Shri Rama Chita, Jaya Ramana.
Raksha Ramanan will now read a few passages from the book Bhagavan Ramana, the Friend of All.
Chapter 9. Bhagavan and the Wild Cats. Cheetahs, Tiger, Leopards. 1. Borda, go away. Bhagavan had no fear of wild animals, nor did they have any fear of him. Up to 1930, wild animals like leopards used to roam on Arunachala. Anamale Swami was an attendant to Bhagavan in the beginning. Bhagavan never used to sleep much. He would wake up in the middle of the night around 1 a.m. and go behind the ashram for the calls of nature. One of the duties of the attendant was to go with him with a lamp. Although leopards did not come into the ashram, they used to roam about in the area where Bhagavan would go at night. Annamalai recalls that on one of the nights a leopard came near them. Bhagavan just looked at the leopard and said, "Borda, go away," and the leopard simply walked away. 2. Brute and man alike. There is a graphic account of how Bhagavan treated wild animals and humans alike. Sri Rangaswami Iyengar was a businessman from Madras. He was a staunch devotee of Bhagavan and was often coming from Madras to be with Bhagavan. One day, Rangaswami Iyengar arrived at Bhagavan's place by 1 o'clock train in the blazing sun. Bhagavan at that time, during the days of the Great Plague in Tiruvannamalai in 1906, was staying in the Pachayamman temple. Bhagavan welcomed him with his usual beaming face of smiles and kindness. As it was very hot, Iyengar was advised by the devotees to have his bath in the nearby pond. He left Bhagavan's presence to bathe in the pond in front of the temple. The spot was very lonely. Rangaswami Iyengar was bathing in the eastern ghat. All of a sudden, Bhagavan, who was seated inside the temple, left his seat. Devotees sitting there thought that Bhagavan was walking out to attend the nature call. Bhagavan, when he came near the pond, saw a leopard coming to the tank to quench his thirst at the northern edge. Bhagavan quietly told the animal, "Go now and come later. He would be afraid," referring to Iyengar bathing nearby. Hearing this, the leopard went away. Bhagavan went to Rangaswami, who had by then finished his bath, and said to him, "We should not come here at this part of the day. Wild animals come at these hours to quench their thirst." He did not add that the wild animal had actually come there, lest the man be frightened. Thus did Bhagavan show his equality in treating both the brute and the man alike. A few days later, Bhagavan himself told this incident to the devotees.
We conclude our program with the chanting of the first 10 verses of Sri Ramana CHATVARIMSAT by Shankari Mahesh and her 7-year-old daughter Shama.
Sri Ramana CHATVARIMSAT. Vande Sri Ramanarsehe Acharyasya Padabjam Yo me tarshayad isham Bantam dvantam atitya
Kataya nijaya kalusham harata karunani dinarunase lajusa kagavahana pasita takyavita vrasavahana mauna rahasya vrata kanarang makasuri sapaguruna guna sanchaya ratna mahodadina kanakuta sarasrakarenyayata tanukanchupagupta mahamanasa katurenya chalandriya nigrahane patuna parakiya guna grahane chalavarjita mauna samadhijusa palatarjita pika rakamarusa.
Jataram samaye paripurayata katinam vratam atritate charata jasaketana sastradhura prahada krisim atma vibhoda vidhau dadata bhavapkaravari nidhim tarata karata marasena supatravata swadrishati kasita lakanti bhrata bayam angri saroja jusam harata namatam atibhakti matam nidhina ganatapa vidhuna nasannidhina yati dharma tatim paripalayata paritascha tamo vinivarayata पणिनायकवर्ण्यगुणौघभृता बनिति प्रियसत्यहिता बनता बहुमानवसत् अयता सुखितम् अवमानततेरविधूनवता यतिनम् अधिपेण कुशाग्रलसान्मतिना धृतिनासि चित्तभुवा लहरिं प्रमदस्य सदा वहता निहतन्त्रसरत्रवसंहतिना भगवत्पदम् अन्यजना सुलभं स्वगुणैरधिगत्य परं जयता ममतारहितेण हितेण सतं निहितेण गुणप्रभुना हृदये धरणीधरजङ्कमपि धरणीतलवासितमोद्युतये नरवेशभृता नगरन्ध्रकृता रमणेन सनत् अमिधं भुवनम्.
This brings us to the end of the program by the North Carolina Ramana Satsang group. Over to San Francisco.